Oh, okay. I guess we're going now. It didn't do the usual thing it does. Anyway, this is two non-critics, two lifelong friends, and film buffs with very different movie tastes, getting together talking about movies. I'm non-critic Dustin, here in the very seasonably warm upstate New York, and probably in the equally seasonably warm Hawaii is.
Non-critic will, and you just said seasonally warm, so winter's over officially.
Yeah, winter's been over for a while now. It's just hasn't felt like it.
I'm just saying, Binghamton has crazy weather.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now it's boiling hot. I'm sitting in front of my big ass window that's open. Like, I mean, I have like one of those sliding door windows, and it's open all the way, and I'm still sweating bullets. That's probably being chubby. But anyway, moving on. Uh, we're going to talk about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We don't review current movies very often, but I thought this would be really interesting to talk about because
Yeah.
this is kind of like this year's Man of Steel. I have a feeling it's where
in,
people are very divided on it. Maybe they're
in a
not
sense.
as divided as they are of Man of Steel. Man of Steel is like Willie loves it, Justin hates it, and it's like that's kind of how everyone was. Like this movie is, I love it, and then there's me, who was like this movie's garbage, and there seems there seems to be a lot more people saying Amazing Spider-Man 2 is garbage, and then a lot of confused people who like it and they don't know why they like it. Doug Walker and his brother, they do a show called Sibling Rivalry where they talk about new movies, and both of them were like, I can't understand why I enjoyed this movie. So I just think it'd be interesting to talk about. Anyway, that'll be interesting. Really quick, what is going on in Hawaii right now?
Yeah, there's a bunch of ambulance and cop cars driving by. The windows closed, mind you, but you can still hear it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
some bad spam out there.
In Hawaii, that's crazy, ain't
So
it?
real quick, what's like one of your early Spider-Man memories? Were you a Spider-Man fan as a kid?
Yes, I was. Originally, when the Spider-Man cartoon came out, the animated series, the original one with Spider-Man, Spider-Man, like that was my TV show. That was my series, and then from that, I've played the different video games or whatnot of Spider-Man. Uh, I've watched little. I remember one of the big Spider-Man series that I loved was the cell shaded Spider-Man series that was on MTV. It was
Mhm.
only I think it was only a season, and then they stopped it. I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't making a lot of money, which I didn't understand because it was actually a good series. But
I hear that was
Spider-Man
pretty good. I didn't watch much of it.
Spider-Man has always been um, a, a very interesting hero to me. Number one, because he's in New York City, and I'm from New York. I originally was born in New York City, so that was a big thing for me. Um, and then on top of the fact that it was just interesting, like um, what he can do, his powers, the struggles that he goes through as a person that's trying to, maintain his personality, his humanity as Peter Parker, but still be a hero on top of
Mhm.
that. So, Spider-Man was definitely an interesting hero to me, and it all started when I saw that Spider-Man cartoon,
Mhm.
the original Spider-Man cartoon.
Well,
So
original for us. There
for
was
us,
yeah, because in the 60s and 70s they had the original Spider-Man card. The
yeah,
Spider-Man,
hmm
and then they did Spider-Man and Friends and whatnot. But yeah, for us that was our first cartoon,
yeah,
Spider-Man. For me, I can't remember my earliest Spider-Man memory. I used to have a bunch of Marvel trading cards when I was like 5,
yeah.
and I would just stare at those. And I remember I had a Spider-Man one. But even more than the cartoon, which I did watch a lot and I really liked, I used to buy the Spider-Man magazine,
Hmm.
and they would ask their readers to submit villain ideas, and I
Yeah.
would submit villain ideas all the time. And then I remember once I got and it was my first rejection letter. Of course, I was like 9, but I got a postcard from Spider-Man where he called me Spider Friend, like, and all that kind of stuff, saying like, "Thanks for all your great ideas." I just imagine Spider-Man sounds like Stan Lee. Thanks, Spider Friend. Thanks for all your great ideas and all this stuff. I had that hanging on my door for years, and so that's really my earliest Spider-Man memories is that magazine and whatnot, and and the cartoons, of course. I've always really enjoyed Spider-Man. I think his powers are cool. I think
Hmm.
his costume is cool. I think his attitude is cool. I don't mean like the cocky attitude, but although that's not bad. I mean the fact that no matter, I mean he's not Batman.
Yeah.
Like Batman, there's a bunch of shit going down in his life that any normal person would just crumble under. And he always keeps sort of this positive outlook and always tries to keep his humor about him. And that's what I really identify with Spider-Man. And what did you think of the original Spider-Man trilogy of films, the Sam Raimi ones?
Well, when Spider-Man, the original films came out with Tobey Maguire, like when the first movie came out in 2005, I believe.
It came out in 2002.
Oh shit. Hmm.
Yeah, 'cause that came out in 2002. Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004 because The Amazing Spider-Man 2 comes out exactly 10 years after. Anyway, yeah, 2002 it came out. It came out 2 years
2002.
after X-Men.
Damn, so I was still in high school. Wow, I was in 10th
Mm-hmm.
grade. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when the original with Tobey Maguire came out, I was blown away. I mean, because they came up with a not a I don't want to say a new concept, but a new perspective on how I looked at Spider-Man for me personally, and it was amazing. Even with the way he shoots his webs, it's always been for Spider-Man that he has cartridges
Mm-hmm.
that he makes to shoot his web out. For Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, it was all organic. He acquired that trait when he got bit by the spider that he made his own weapon. So I thought that was very interesting. I thought the cinematics, the CG was amazing. Um, and Tobey Maguire himself as Peter Parker was it was very good. I did, at first when I'm looking at this character, I didn't see him as Peter Parker, but he pulled it off really well. So the first Spider-Man came out, it was amazing. Something that you never seen. It was spot on. Second one was still good, really interesting with Doc Ock. Then the third one came along, and I wasn't that impressed. It was still a good movie, but I wasn't that impressed. Yes, they had Venom and Sandman, but the way that it ended and Harry dying, it just wasn't. No, wasn't good.
Right, I'm kind of with you on the first Spider-Man, except for I remember when I went to go see it. I went to see it by myself. Actually, that's how much of a loser I am. I went to go see it by myself opening weekend, and I was totally sold by the hype of it. That was the last time I remember a movie coming out where I was just 100% invested in the hype. And
Yeah.
I remember watching it and going, I think I like it. I'm Oh, I don't know. Because I felt like I had already seen it. It reminded me a lot of the Christopher Reeve Superman films. It had the same tone as those films. It followed the same structure of those films. And but at that time it was the only comic book movie that was being treated with this sort of like grand respect. Like you got the idea that Hollywood is finally taking comic books seriously again, and so I was like, all right, this is the best they're doing right now, so I guess I like it. And then Spider-Man 2 came out, and I did not like that movie. I thought it was incredibly boring and lifeless and grating and cumbersome and just not very good at all. And then I was shocked to find out that people that I respected were calling it, like comic book creators that I respected, journalists I respected, were saying this is the greatest superhero film of all time. I'm like, whoa, what?
Hold up.
Yeah, like this is not a good movie. This is a very this is a movie that takes itself too seriously, while also having really horrible dialogue, horrible characters, horrible. Like that's the thing. This is just I don't understand why people love this so much. And then when Spider-Man 3 came out, I was like, okay, that kind of looks like Spider-Man 2, but sillier. I don't want to see it. I finally decided to watch it once when it was on video. I got 45 minutes into it and just turned it off, and I, to this day, have never finished watching it.
Oh, God.
I don't like the Sam Raimi movies. I think they're very well shot movies. I think that they are they have moments of some real dramatic tension, and the fight choreography is superb. But overall, when I watched that, I was like, that's not my Spider-Man. I don't feel like I'm watching Spider-Man. So what did you think of, and I could go further, but who cares? What did you think of when they finally rebooted Spider-Man, finally, after 2 or 3 years after Spider-Man 3, at long last, they rebooted Spider-Man. What did you think of The Amazing Spider-Man? The one we're not talking about yet.
When they rebooted Spider-Man, at first I was iffy, because I was set on Tobey Maguire. So when they rebooted Spider-Man and had this new actor, Andrew Garfield, play Spider-Man, I was just like, I don't know. Let's see how it works out. But once I saw The Amazing Spider-Man Part 1, by the end of the movie, I was like, he did a really good job. He did a really good job. I enjoyed the movie. I can definitely see him as Spider-Man. His personality, his demeanor, his body structure. Because Andrew Garfield, he's a skinny guy, kind of nerdy or whatnot. Same as Peter Parker. So it fit into place. Mm-hmm. So once I saw that, and they took it back, like before Mary Jane, they did it with his first love, Gwen Stacy. Mm-hmm. So that was a little time adjusting to, because you're so used to Mary Jane. But for them to go back into like the origins of when his first love with Gwen Stacy, and how he started coming up as Spider-Man, it took some time getting used to, but it was worth it. It was really good. I like him as Spider-Man, and I thought the first one was really good. I thought it was really good. So, I'm very satisfied with the actors that they chose for the first Amazing Spider-Man. So then, when they came out with what we're supposed to talk about, mm-hmm. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I thought it was very interesting. I still have mixed feelings about Jamie Foxx playing the shit. Oh,
you're going into the review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 already? Come on, bro. Back and forth, bro. I didn't say Amazing Spider-Man 1. What are we doing?
Okay, we'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. Never mind. We'll get into that later. I'll get into that one later. But as far as the first Amazing Spider-Man, it was very nice, very well put together. Not Critic Dustin.
Okay. I sound like a jerk. But anyway, well, no, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said anyway. to me, when I saw the Amazing Spider-Man, I didn't expect to like it at all. The trailer made it look like, oh god, they're making it darker. They're making it more his origin more complex. I was like, God damn it, why? And then I saw it, and I was amazed at myself for enjoying it as much as I did. I felt that a lot of people complain that it was a mistake to do Spider-Man's origin again, like with the death of Uncle Ben and everything like that, because we already saw it in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and that's still so fresh in our minds. But to be honest, since those original Sam Raimi movies didn't feel like Spider-Man to me, and this movie felt much, much closer to how I remember Spider-Man, that I'm not kidding, I cried when Uncle Ben died. I knew it was coming, but I thought Martin Sheen was such a good Uncle Ben. Like he wasn't this saintly figure. That's another thing I didn't like about the Sam Raimi movies, is that Uncle Ben and Aunt May are like on a pedestal. They're not people. They're just these sort of angels in Peter's life, and they can do no wrong. Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben just feels like a real guy who's trying to do the best he can. And when he dies, it's really, really tragic. And when Andrew Garfield listens to that cell phone message, even right now, I don't care. Fuck anybody who talks shit about the Amazing Spider-Man 1, because that scene makes me bawl like a fucking baby. And
but to interject, well, I didn't cry. I didn't cry or whatever like that. I was very touched about it because in a real life situation, if you just got into a big argument with your uncle that you looked at as a father figure, and then all of a sudden he gets murdered, and he sent a voicemail to you saying how he just hopes the best for you. He's not telling you this to bring you down, but he's saying what he's saying to uplift you and to bring you up because he loves you so much and he knows you have a big responsibility. To listen to a voicemail like that after the fact that you were holding his body and the last thing he was alive in your arms and he smiled at you and passed away, that will break anybody up. When you're listening to a voicemail, that will break anybody up. So that's why I agree with you with that, because I would have been in tears too. Like, oh shit! Oh my god! I said so many mean things to him. Like, you're gonna think back of, God, I wish that I wouldn't have said this to him. So I agree. I definitely agree with you.
And they did that in the Sam Raimi one, but to me, because Uncle Ben didn't feel like a guy, he just felt like an important figure. I didn't get emotional. But here, because Uncle Ben just felt like a dude, and not just a dude, he felt like a cool guy. Like he's just doing his best. And that's what I have to say about the Amazing Spider-Man 1, is the plot couldn't have cared less. The villain, oh god, did not care whatsoever. But when it came down to Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, Aunt May, and Uncle Ben, they completely nailed it. Or at least they got much closer to what I wanted to see. And it was their interactions that completely sold me on the movie. And now, we move on to the actual review of the actual movie. You started to say, Jamie Foxx. Go ahead.
Jamie Foxx. Of course, we've all known Jamie Foxx since the beginning when he first came out in The Living Color. He was a comedian, stand-up comedian, funny guy. And he made his way to fame. He made his way to fame starting from A Living Color, and also with his singing too. So, when I heard that he was going to play, hey, what's up? He's just sitting there like, hey, what's up? Hey, that's it. That's next Felicia Hardy right there, the cat. But anyway, when he when I first heard news of him playing Shocker, I was off by it
Electro.
because I mean, Shocker
Shocker
playing
makes it sound
Electro.
real dirty.
when
Shocker.
when I first heard him playing Electro, I was kind of off about it because of the fact that like I've never. It's not sounding racist. It's just in the comics. Electro has always been white. Like
You're racist. You're racist.
he's been he's been of Caucasian descent. There you go. Technical term. He's been Caucasian, and they never did something like that where they switch over. Switch over. I just sound so fucking.
Where they
bad.
changed races.
Where they change races. This just sounds so bad right now.
Well, think about it. Nick Fury was a white guy. David Hasselhoff played Nick Fury in the Nick Fury movie. He was a white guy forever. Sam Jackson's way better.
Yeah, like, I'm not against it. Just it's something new that you just wasn't expecting. So when they put Jamie Foxx as Shocker, Jamie Foxx, Electro. When they put Jamie Foxx as Electro, he's such. Jamie Foxx, he's a good actor. He is a good actor. Regardless of the role that he was given, he's a good actor. So he played it off well. But one thing I will say that I do like about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the creation of Electro. This is still a new movie. It's still in theater, so I can't really spoil it. But for me,
isn't it in the trailer?
Partially,
he falls into a vat of electric eels. Come on, you can spoil that.
They do a well. I mean, okay, thank you. I mean, they do quick glimpse of him falling into a big ass capsule of electric eels with the cables that he was holding. But how instead of dying, how did he turn into Electro? Only God knows. Only Jesus knows. But
how a radioactive spider gives you spider powers.
Only God knows.
Yeah.
But
go with it.
But this is the Marvel universe. This is not the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Marvel universe. But as far as Jamie Foxx being Electro, because that was actually the big thing. Like as there was first talks about The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were like, "Oh, Jamie Foxx is gonna play Electro." I don't know how many times I've heard people say, "Oh shit, Jamie Foxx in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is gonna be Electro." How's this gonna work? It to me, it worked out pretty nice. I didn't have no animosity towards it. I wasn't against it, but I don't think it was the greatest performance ever. But it fit. I can say it fit.
Yes, it did. It did.
Because of the fact that Jamie Foxx is a good actor, it fit. And like I said, I felt bad for the character in general, for Max, because he was a nobody. He was a nobody, and all he wanted to do was be noticed by people, by anybody. He wanted to be noticed and be wanted or needed. Keyword needed. He wanted to be needed by people. He wanted to feel like Spider-Man. And he, in a sense, got his time to shine, but it was in a bad light, in a sense. But Jamie Foxx, to me, I think he did a good job as Electro with what was given to him. He did a good job.
Yeah, right. And that, again, also that's something else that's being ripped apart in this movie is Electro. He's being compared to the Riddler in Batman Forever. And I thought the same thing when I saw the trailer for it. When I saw, okay, he's this nerdy guy who works for this place. He's got weird obsessions, and then he becomes a superhero. He just wants to be noted, a supervillain, and then he just wants to be noted. Yeah, I get that. I totally agree. But I think but in the movie, everything is so heightened and so kind of silly that the way to have his character begin as a stereotypical lonely nerd guy with borderline identity disorders, to then have him turn into this weird thing that he is, and almost
Yeah,
make him sort of detached from things.
yeah,
Like, there's a scene where they confront someone, and Electro is just kind of like standing there with his head tilted, and
yeah.
he just quickly shocks the guy in the heart. Um, that was a cool scene to go from the guy who's like, "Oh, hey, Spider-Man, you know it's my birthday? How about that?" When he's just walking around in his apartment talking to pictures of Spider-Man, it's like, "Oh, hey, Spider-Man, well, I'm your best friend." To then see him just kind of like this dead thing, I thought that was kind of cool.
Now, um, as far as Jamie Foxx, as Electro or whatnot, before when Spider-Man was first, when the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was first talked about,
Mm-hmm.
it was all about, oh, Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's gonna be Electro. Like it was talked about so much to where it seemed like he was
The main villain.
the main villain or whatnot. And then all of a sudden, months down the line, then you bring in um, Hobgoblin and Rhino. Like you bring in extra people or
Rhino.
whatnot.
Yeah.
You bring in extra villains because I mean originally it just seemed like Jamie Foxx was the head honcho of villains, and they put a lot of spotlight on him. I'm saying, and there was nothing wrong with that. I actually want to see how this would be pulled off. I wanted to see how it be pulled off. Um, Now with Max, you can tell that he had some type of animosity inside him because I'm not gonna spoil it, but there is a specific scene where out of nowhere he just snaps and I don't want to say goes crazy, but he snaps and just brings out his angry side, quote unquote, while he was still him.
Yeah, before he was Electro, right?
Yeah, before he was Electro. Before he was Electro, there's a part.
You mean when
I think
he's
he's
fantasizing about what he's going to do to that guy?
yeah. I think he would. I think there was a part where he was talking to his boss
Yeah.
or
That
whatnot,
was,
and
yeah, that was a
he just
fantasy.
he just snaps and just like "Ah!" Yeah, but you can tell that he has that
Oh, okay. I thought you were
quality in
saying
him.
he actually did that. I'd be like, well, he'd be fired. But yeah.
No. You can tell that he has that quality, that personality in him because when he becomes Electro, it just pretty much it, it becomes him. That's what it turns out to be.
Hmm.
Because there's even a specific part where he says, I have so much anger in me because there's so much that he has held inside of him that has been building up, and now because of the fact that he's Electro, he actually takes it out. When he was just plain old Max, he holds it in,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
his true feelings are coming out to
Like that,
shock shit out you.
yeah, like that scene in Times Square where he just like sucks all the power out of everything and he goes a little nuts. I think that's a really cool scene. I thought that was a very, very impressive scene that I don't think is getting enough credit because, like you said, the way they portrayed Max was he's not a person. I
Yeah.
mean, he is a person, but he's like a caricature of a person. But the way they handled that caricature becoming a villain made total sense within the reality of the movie. So that
Yeah.
scene was, I think, was as big and over the top as it was. It fit with what they were going for with the character,
Yeah.
and I have to say that that's the biggest difference for me on why I prefer these. Well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest reasons. Like earlier, I said I didn't like Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi film, because it everything in it was so stupid, but it took itself seriously. To me, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, everything in it is so stupid, but the movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and the
Yeah.
character gets right. It gets so right that I can forgive the rest of it for being stupid. And that scene is a very good example of that. Another thing is is like we were talking about about Harry Osborn. And everyone, including we were talking before, everyone, including a friend of yours, is saying that they didn't that there was no character growth because we didn't know that Peter and Harry were friends before, and they just suddenly throw it in this movie. They totally
Yeah.
do that, and I'm not saying they don't. But at the same time, that that sort of thing kind of happens in real life. You you lose touch with friends and you don't even think
Yeah.
about them, and then out of nowhere they're back in your life. And I thought for they were totally just trying to cram that in there because that's how they are in the comic books, so they want to do it that way. And I'm not saying they're not doing that, but for how they did it, I believe that they were friends. As soon as you see
Yeah.
them kind of hanging out on the beach, skipping stones, talking about chicks, stuff like that, I felt like they were friends. I totally bought that they knew each other and just haven't seen each other for years. And
Yeah.
and I really, really, really liked Harry Osborn in this movie. I hated Harry Osborn in the original movies. I For a long time I thought James Franco was a god awful actor because Harry Osborn in those movies is just lifeless. He's a plot device. And he's a plot device here, but they try to at least make him feel more than that, and I appreciated that. And also,
and j-
in the Sam Raimi films, Harry Osborn, you don't really understand why he follows in his father's footsteps. He just kind of does. He hates his
yeah.
dad, but he follows in his footsteps just cause. In this, he literally has no choice. He suffers from the same disease his father did, and his father's blood is in him and causing him to die. And so the road he's taking is similar to his father's simply because he doesn't have a choice. And
And
I
just
thought that
so
was that was much more had much more of an impact. Anyway, go ahead.
and just so you know, the same actor that was in Cloverfield, the same actor that was in Cloverfield as the antagonist. Um, I
You mean
can't think of
Chronicle?
the. I mean, Chronicle. Yeah, the same actor that was. My bad, people. The same actor that was in Chronicle as the antagonist. I
Hmm.
can't think of his name right now. Is
I
the
think it's
same.
Michael Dahan. I know his last name's Dahan. I can't remember if his first name's Michael or not.
Well, Don. I can't.
Or
Yeah, I can't.
Dahan. It doesn't matter. Just call him Harry.
Harry, Don, he is the same actor that plays Harry Osborn. So I thought that was actually a good setup because you saw how dark he could be when you watch Chronicle. If you watched Chronicle,
Dude, that actor Dahan is he. I don't care when he's on screen, and I felt this way about Andrew Garfield. I can't stop staring at him. He's got such an interesting face, and he knows how to work that face. And he's got
yeah,
these eyes that are just like little knives or something. Like he has such an interesting look and an interesting voice. I love that. He doesn't. I really liked him in this, and I really liked Harry Osborn in this. And I thought that you're absolutely right. They totally were building this movie up as the Jamie Foxx show. Well, not the Jamie Foxx show, although I used to watch that as a kid, but the Electro show, and it
yeah,
became the Harry Osborn uh, double act or something.
Yeah.
The reason I laughed earlier when you mentioned Rhino is because, and this is not spoiling, pretty much everyone knows this. Rhino's barely in this movie, and
Yeah.
what they do with him is so absurd that I just love it so much because it's so bad. Like, what? I'm not, again, like you said, I don't want to spoil it too much. This is something I definitely don't want to spoil because the choices Paul Giamatti, one of the best actors working right now, the choices he made are so out of left field, man, that I like applauded that dude because like you're so good. It's so bizarre.
You know, I actually have a question
Hmm.
for you. How do you feel Andrew Garfield played Spider-Man compared to Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire is a better Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield's a better Spider-Man. I think and again, this is nothing new. I'm telling you flat out. Um, I phrased it that way because Doug Walker phrased it that way, and I thought he phrased it perfectly when he said it that way. When you see Peter Parker, you see a nerd in
Yeah.
those movies, and when you see Spider-Man, you see Spider-Man. When you
Yeah.
see Tobey Maguire, you see a nerd. Not in every movie, but in Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is a
Yeah.
good actor. But in
Yeah.
Spider-Man, he's always playing the nerd. And even when he has the costume on, he's playing the nerd in the costume. And
Yeah.
in this, when Andrew Garfield has got what are you doing?
No,
Sorry,
sorry.
this is very loud. It's okay.
There was something in the bag. Sorry.
Okay. He when he's in the costume, that is the Spider-Man I used to write letters to when I was 10 years old. When
Okay.
seriously watching this movie, I I was like that. I have been waiting years to see this Spider-Man on screen, and
Yeah.
the drawback to that is when he's not in the costume, he's still being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Still cool. He's still cocky. He's still funny, and I love watching him. He's just not Peter Parker. And
Yeah.
what did you think about Andrew Garfield? I think he's just, man, so good.
Andrew Garfield. I definitely like him as Spider-Man. Spider-Man as Peter Parker or whatnot. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn between him and Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker because Tobey Maguire when Spider-Man first came out, the new movies. I mean, when that first came out, all I knew was Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and he did a really good job. Not so much the third one, you know that's one that you just don't talk about. It's just one of those unnamed ones, especially when he's in. I don't know if he was in a bar or a club and he was dancing. You just yeah, like you just said. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah, shut up. Don't even talk about it. Yep.
Why you gotta bring it up, bro?
Don't bring that shit up, bro. And then the way it ended with them just dancing. Yeah, Harry dies and they're just dancing and reminiscing about old times and they're sad. I don't know. Uh, so Andrew Garfield, he brought a new flavor to Spider-Man. I distinctly remember when I just saw screenshots of, oh, this is going to be the Spider-Man reboot, and I'm seeing Andrew Garfield, and before Spider-Man, I never heard of Andrew Garfield, never did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, all right, new actor. I guess looks kind of cool. Looks a little bit darker or so. I want to see how he pulls it off. And then when I saw the Amazing Spider-Man, I was like, he pulled it off really well, really well. Same with the sequel. Same with the sequel. So I don't know. I mean, Andrew Garfield did an amazing job as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker, but a part of me is still like Tobey Maguire is Peter Parker. So I don't know. You can't really count Spider-Man. You can't really count it. Like the reason why I'm saying you can't really count Spider-Man because it's CG. It's a lot
It's
of it
not
is.
always CG though. A lot of it
It,
is, but it's not all.
yeah, I mean a lot of it is. It's not always CG, but a lot of it is. So all the web slinging and flipping here from building to building is all CG. So they can do that on cue. But
Yeah, yeah. When I
as
say,
far
go ahead.
well, I mean as far as the build, the structure of Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield pulls it off better than Tobey Maguire. That's what I'll say.
I think, and I was thinking about the build too. Um, I think it's a generational thing. Sam Raimi grew up with the Silver Age, or I don't think it's technically Silver Age. Okay, I'm a comic book fan, but I never understood the difference between Golden Age, Silver Age, and Bronze Age. But the classic Spider-Man, the introduction of Spider-Man, he was around then when Stan Lee issued out, Spider-Man for the first time. And when you look at his movies, they're very true to that time. And
Mm-hmm.
the build of Spider-Man and a lot of the poses he does, you could look in those old Steve Ditko, Stan Lee, or even Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. comics. That looks like that Spider-Man. But
Yeah.
for us, the Spider-Man we grew up with is like the Spider-Man of the '80s, Spider-Man of the '90s, who's a little more leaner. He looked more like a bug, and that's why, at least for me, I see Andrew Garfield and I see Spider-Man. Now, when I
Yeah.
don't, now I'm not referring to the web slinging and everything.
Yeah.
The scene to me in this that really, to me, felt like Spider-Man. There's two scenes. I'll let you say what you were going to say before I explain them both. I'll just explain one first. The one scene is when he first meets Jamie Foxx's character,
Yeah.
and he's telling him how important he is, and he just quickly uses his web to pick up his blueprints and gives it to him, and he's like, "Here, lick this," and he licks his hand and he fixes his hair for him and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, "You're my eyes on the ears, man. You're my eyes and ears on the ears, man." To me, that I was like, that's Spider. That's if I was a little kid and I was out on the street and I saw that, I'd be like, that's Spider-Man. And like there's scenes in the other movies where they tried to give Spider-Man that kind of cool like dialogue or that sort of those witticisms, and it just never quite got there. They tried, and it just never really worked. Like when he called the Green Goblin Gobby, that's like as close as they got. He was like,
Yeah.
"What, Gobby?" And you're like, all right.
As far as the look of Spider-Man, the body structure of Spider-Man, from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield, I guess the Spider-Man that I'm used to, that I feel that is more, I guess, more close to the comic, is Andrew Garfield. Like, you have a person that's doesn't have all the muscle in the world, skinny dude, but he does amazing features because of the fact that he was bit by a radioactive spider. Mm-hmm. What they did with Tobey, they even show with Tobey Maguire, the moment that he got bit by a spider, he felt sick, he passed out, and overnight his body went through a transformation as he was sleeping, and then all of a sudden he wakes up with a six-pack and muscles and this and that. Like, they didn't do that. Like, they didn't do that in the comic. They just, you gain powers and everything. You didn't all of a sudden gain a six-pack and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at first, when Spider-Man first came out in 2002 with Tobey Maguire, it was nice. It was cool. Like, oh shoot, that's what happens when you get bit by a radioactive spider. You get a six-pack. It was for the media. It was for the fans. It was just for the extra, even sex appeal. It was just built up. Like, oh man, this is what happens when you become a superhero. You get this awesome body. You get these biceps. No, like I like even the Amazing Spider-Man 2, the sequel. They even showed him getting sick, and that was one of the key things because it was always that Spider-Man, even though he is Spider-Man, he still can get a common cold. He still is a human being. So there's a specific scene where he's in a little corner store getting, I don't know, snacks, groceries, whatever he's getting, and he's sick. He's sick as a dog, but he still has to fight crime. They didn't really express that in the first trilogy with Sam Raimi. They didn't really express that. Like Spider-Man, he does amazing feats, but he still is, in a sense, a normal guy. He can still get sick. He still has these um, physical ailments that can hinder his performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt that with Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man, it was more spot on because now that I look back, it kind of made Tobey Maguire seem like just this built, stocky guy that's Spider-Man compared to
Tobey Maguire is kind of a scrawny dude, and he had to build up for that movie.
He had to build up for that movie, but that's the thing. Why are you building up for that movie when it's Spider-Man? Spider-Man has muscle, yes, but he's not he's not like Hulk.
like Captain America or something.
Especially like when they exaggerated that scene when he's looking through the mirror when he first wakes up. And he's like, Aunt May is like, is there a change? He's like, yeah, big change.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, so, I mean, I've exaggerated enough, I've ranted on enough, but I felt that overall, Andrew Garfield is becoming a better Spider-Man, a better Peter Parker. I still give respect, a lot of respect, to Tobey Maguire for what he has done because he has definitely hit some points where you fell in love with Spider-Man again. So I definitely give respect to that, but it seems like it's time to pass the torch over to Andrew Garfield. So yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'll say it. I thought the Sam Raimi movies, they're important because they ushered in the new wave of comic book movies that we have, but they just never really appealed to me. And these movies, the reason they do is, yes, I understand how stupid trust me, I'm not going into it because I don't think it's worth it. I think anyone who watches The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and doesn't realize that 85% of it is incredibly stupid and ludicrous, if you don't figure that out, then you're just not paying attention. So I'm not going to waste my time talking about things like that. But like I said, what they get right, they get so right that I forgive everything else. And let me tell you the moment they get more right than anything else. And actually, it was so good. Anyway, and I'm going to spoil it. I don't care because it's not a plot point. It's just a cool thing that happens in the movie. There's a part where a kid is being bullied, and he's backed into an alley up against a fence. These kids are stomping on his books. They're stomping on his science project. Spider-Man drops down right there and just looks at the kids. And, the kids scamper off, and then Spider-Man picks up the thing, and he's like, is this a wind turbine? Did you make this? And the kid's, nodding his head. He's like, this is so cool. I can't believe you made this. And he's like, here, I'm going to walk you home. That's what a fucking superhero does. A superhero saves people. He doesn't always just save, from buildings falling down. He doesn't always save from the big mad scientist. Sometimes he saves a little kid and makes him feel cool about himself. That's what a superhero does. And I honestly have not seen a scene like that in a movie, a comic book movie, in so long. I didn't realize how long it's been. As good as all the Marvel movies are, and trust me, Captain America 2, far better than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm not going to say it's not. All of those movies are far better. Most superhero movies are better than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. but they don't have that core element of this is a hero that I've come to miss in movies. When I was a teenager, I wanted all my movies to be dark. I wanted
Yeah.
all of my movies to be The Dark Knight because I had I was sick of everything being all sunshine and flowers. And then once I
Yeah.
started getting that, not saying that all movies are like that, not all the Marvel movies are like that. Certainly, Iron Man's not anything like that. But there's such like this need to make things so dark and to not treat superheroes like heroes that when I saw that scene, I cried because to me that little boy was the same little boy as myself who used to write letters to Spider-Man. That scene, there's a lot I like about the movie. There's a lot I don't like, but that scene sold me. So there you go.
Well, I think with what you just said, you pretty much wrapped it up. Um, you did. You pretty much wrapped it up. That was actually a good closing.
Thank you.
But I
We've been
did.
going on for like an hour and a half, I think.
But
That's okay.
overall, I did enjoy Spider-Man 2. Um, the acting was good with Andrew Garfield, Jamie Foxx, and can't think of his name, but Don, the Harry Osborn, Chronicle. So I thought it was really good. And this is not a spoiler, but for a hint, I mean, if you people are, whoever keeps up with the comics,
Everyone knows how this movie ends, but it's okay if you don't say it.
well, I'm not gonna say it because it's still a new movie. I'm not gonna say it, but if you keep up with the comics, it's accurate to the comics.
Well, it's not just the comics. I mean, it's apparently there's a group of people who intentionally went out and blew the ending of this movie so that people would not go see it.
Wow, assholes! Thank you.
Yes, they
Awesome.
are assholes. But I will say one thing that I forgot to mention real quick, and I really do want to wrap this up. But Gwen Stacy, 100 times more interesting than Mary Jane ever was in those first three movies, and she's competent, she's entertaining, and she's an actual. You can see why her and Peter go together. Never
Yeah,
really understood it why in the other movies, except that everyone else in Mary Jane's life was a jerk and Pete wasn't.
yeah,
They feel like a couple, and that's other than the scene I just said. That's what makes these two movies work so well. Are those two actors and their chemistry and those two characters. Um, I feel bad we didn't talk about that as much because I really meant to, but those are the core of this movie. Are those two? And I'm not a big Emma Stone fan. I don't hate her. I'm just not really a fan. But I think she's excellent,
yeah.
and her character is excellent as well. Anyway, no,
And
like you said, we need to wrap it up. But go ahead, say what you need to say.
I will say that without spoiling it, they do give little hints of what will happen in
Yeah, they
Spider-Man 2.
basically. I
They
mean,
give
they
they give little
basically
hints.
they basically put a giant neon sign within the first 25 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is Two Non-Critics. Tomorrow we'll be back with another movie. Um, Non-Critic Will's Choice, The Skin I Live In, starring Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas.
But yeah, we need to wrap this up. So that's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. We're Two Non-Critics. And you know what? Quit hating.